Hello and welcome to the ROPESCAST, the independent voice of the Middle East. I'm Ksenia Svetlova. ROPE stands for the Regional Organization for Peace, Economics and Security. We are a young organization that works to lay the groundwork for a post-conflict Middle East by connecting forward-thinking Israelis, Palestinians, and emerging leaders from across the Middle East. We share a holistic vision of our region, where everyone has more to win from conflict resolution and integration than to lose. If you are looking for more information on us, ROPES, please visit our website, ropes.org. And our very special guest today, and a good friend, is Mohammed Daraghmeh, Al-Sharq News Bureau Chief in Palestine, former AP correspondent, an expert on media and the Middle East, and again, great friend of myself, of ROPES. Mohammed, this is such a pleasure to welcome you at the ROPESCAST. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks, my friend. It's my pleasure.
Okay, Mohammed. So I always, when I tell my friends about you, I tell the story about how we met. This is really unique because I believe that we did meet during the funeral of Abu Ammar, Yasser Arafat.
That's right.
Yeah. In the rooftops of Ramallah, covering this outstanding event. So last week we experienced another outstanding event in the Middle East of a different magnitude, of course, the visit of President Donald Trump. I believe that all of the media across the region were following, and focusing very specifically on what happened on the course of the event. Now, when it's over, I think it's time to, make the conclusions. So what was it? How do we evaluate the first visit of the new American president to our region?
Yeah, I think that this visit tells it all, tells the story of the 4 coming years of this administration. It's clear that the priority of Trump is different from any other administration. His priority is first the American interests, the American bilateral relationship with the region, with the countries in the region, the economy, and trying to cool down tension areas with the Houthis, with the Iranians, with the Palestinians. He met with his team, met with Hamas. This is unprecedented for the American administrations who designated Hamas as a terrorist organization, but Trump has no problem. He's transactional. He wants deals. He wants results. So he would use any means, including meeting with Hamas, meeting with the Iranians, meeting with the Houthis, having deals. So his first priority is the American interests, and that's a source of relief to many parties in the region, including the Palestinians. So you want results, then we are part of the region and we have a problem, and the Arab world won't give you the results that you want in reshaping the region without including the Palestinians. The Saudis are not going to have relationship with Israel unless the Palestinians have their rights, or at least the pathway to their national rights. So Palestinians are relieved with the fact that he didn't stop in Israel. He reached a deal with the Houthis without including Israel. He reached a deal with the Saudis without including Israel. And he is negotiating with Iran without including the Israeli Confederation. So it might usher to a new era in the region where there is a seat for every player. But if anyone has his own consideration, his own political interest, so he has no place in this train. So the train has moved. Netanyahu was left on the station. Either he joins or he will be isolating Israel.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that. What was the focus of specifically, your channel where you lead the bureau, the Palestinian bureau? It's a Saudi channel. So the Saudi media, I think, they were very, very focused on this angle that Israel was not a part, of this journey and so on. How do you evaluate it? So do you really believe that the strategic balance had changed, that Israel is no longer important to the United States? How is it seen, from this angle, from Ramallah and from Riyadh?
From Ramallah, yes. From Ramallah, it is seen that Israel is no longer dominating the foreign policy of the United States in this part of the world. It's no longer doing that. So, and Israel has to do something in order to join the club. Without doing something significant, without stopping the war in Gaza, without stopping the war in West Bank as well. In West Bank, Israel is annexing West Bank. The war on a military scale is raging in Gaza, but on the political scale is raging in West Bank. West Bank is no longer West Bank. It is controlled by the settlers, by Smotrich and his people who are building outposts and managers, mangers and ranches and all over the West Bank. So they are annexing West Bank practically, virtually. So so from this, that's why the Palestinians are betting now on the international players like the United States, France, Britain, Germany, Canada, to put pressure on Israel in order to do two things: stop the war in Gaza and have a pathway to the Palestinian national rights in West Bank.
So about that, Mohammed, we discussed the situation, with you on many international conferences as well. And it seems that, during all of these years, the international community did not actually do much in order to stop, the processes, So we see, how Smotrich basically has a free hand in the West Bank, which is something that also many Israelis like me see as a mortal danger to our peace and security and the future. And while he's not being stopped, he's also not sanctioned, So do you really put trust in the international players that they will finally do, this kind of work?
I think yes, the international community is showing no more patience with Israel, and we have seen the latest signs coming from France, from UK, from Canada, threatening to sanction Israel for not allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza, and stating that they are planning to recognize the state of Palestine, and they have gone a long way on this direction. In June, we are going to see the Franco-Saudi conference in New York, and the French are giving lots of signals that they are going to recognize the statehood of Palestine. UK said they have taken the decision, and now it's about the timing. So basically, the world is showing impatience with the Israeli practices in the Palestinian territories. They have realized that Israel is undermining the two-state solution, is killing the two-state solution. There is no more place for the two-state solution. Then we are going down this road to be an apartheid system. If there is no two-state solution, no one state, then what is it? It is basically an apartheid. And the Europe and the West were the ones who forced South Africa to end the apartheid. And I think they will find themselves in front of this fact. This is first. The second, this area is affected by the West, is affected by the developments in the Middle East. So if the Israelis want to keep their war on Gaza and to displace the Palestinians, to depopulate Gaza, then those people, where they would go? Would they go to Africa, to Somalia, to Libya? No, they won't. They are looking to Europe. If anyone from Gaza wants to leave the country, he or she looks at Belgium, Sweden, Norway, these are the destination. So yes, it is deeply affecting Europe. So Europe is not isolated. It's affected by the developments in this part of the world. So they need to move in order to protect their interests.
And what about the Arab world, Mohammed? Because, we do see indeed, this preparations for the Franco-Saudi summit. This is something unprecedented, I think, yes, because until now we had, the resolutions of the Arab summits, so it was simmering inside. And then, there was Europe and the United States that they did, their thing. And now we have the combination of the two forces together. Do you think that it can be a game changer?
I think we started to see a significant change in the international community policy towards Israel. This war, with all the atrocities committed in this war, with all the war crimes, with all the genocide, the ethnic cleansing, as defined by significant international human rights organizations like Amnesty and Human Rights Watch. So it would create some opportunities for the world to move and try to find solutions. The Americans are involved in the region. The British and the French, the Canadians, even the Germans are part of, in a way or another, of these moves. So I think it's the beginning of a change. And we are noticing that Netanyahu and his government is clear to the world that they are working politics. They are prioritizing their political interest over the interests of the state. So they are isolating themselves and isolating Israel. So it is a start, I think, of a new era. I'm not sure if that would change the whole game, but it is a beginning of a huge change. The world has realized that if Netanyahu continues this way, then no more space for the two-state solution. We are drowning into an apartheid regime, and then that's a recipe for more conflict, for more troubles that would destabilize the whole region and then affect Europe.
I want to ask you about the regional cooperation in this regard, and the rapprochement that, started in a bilateral fashion, Egypt and Jordan, and then, of course, the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords specifically did not mention the Palestinians. Netanyahu, during all of these years, said repeatedly, listen, their world doesn't care anymore for the Palestinians. They are focused on themselves. They have their own problems. They have Iran. They have the Islamic extremism. So we have to take a benefit of that and move forward. And there were experts that were sure that, prior to 2007, there was a real chance for normalization with Saudi Arabia. And that, Hamas did their move against Israel and attacked Israel during the 10/7 massacres in order to stop the normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. How do you evaluate these things? First of all, is it true? We all want to know, of course, because there are different opinions in this regard. And then also, did you believe that before the 10/7 there was a real chance to normalization between Israel and Saudi without any progress on the Palestinian track?
Look, before October 7, there were bilateral talks between the Palestinians and the Saudis over what can be done and what cannot be done. So then came talk. Yeah, Palestinian Saudis, what can be done concerning any kind of move towards Israel or between Saudi Arabia and Israel. So there were full talks and understanding between President Abbas team and the Saudi teams. And then October 7 came, and then the Israeli war in Gaza. So that changed the whole setup of the region, with all the atrocities being committed by Israel in Gaza. So the Saudis halted all of that, and that deeply affected the whole setup in the region. And the Saudis are clear. Their position is widely viewed by the Palestinians as more advanced than even the Palestinian Authority position. They say it clear in private and in public that they will not go to any kind of normalization with Israel without solving the Palestinian cause. They won't do that. So they made it clear, and their policy tells that they are not going down this road. Now, the Palestinians are, although their name is not mentioned by Trump or by during his visit to the region, Witkoff comes to Israel and doesn't stop in Ramallah as the American envoys used to do, but the Palestinians are there in the backyard, in the background, they are there. So every move in the region is stipulated, the ceasefire in Gaza, the halt of settlement expansion in West Bank, the halt of Israeli settlers' attacks on Palestinian in West Bank. So the Palestinians are there, although the daily politics is dealing with bilateral interests, but the Palestinian cause is there and the source of destabilizing the region. So sooner or later, the Palestinian cause would impose itself on the table. The Palestinians are weak basically because of the internal dispute. There is no reconciliation, and there is no needed reforms in the PA. So the Palestinians, this is a challenge for them, that how to arrange their internal home to be ready to be a partner, full-fledged partner in any new setup of the region. So this is a challenge. I hope they succeed in this test.
So again, going back to the 10/7 events, do you think that indeed this is true, what is being discussed right now widely in the Israeli media, that some documents that were fetched in the Khan Yunis area indicate that was Sinwar's plan all along to stop the normalization between Israel and Saudi, and that's why he performed these massacres and atrocities?
Look, as someone who has been following Hamas for a long time, I think the plan to attack Israel to carry out October 7 was before the issue of the normalization in the region. It was maybe the timing, it has something to do with that, maybe, I don't know, but the attack itself was linked to the fact that the resistance axis in the region, Iran, the Houthis, the Assad regime, the Hezbollah, the Hamas,
the so-called resistance.
They were, yes, the so-called axis of resistance. They were planning something, and they were cooperating, and they started planning that long time ago. They started probably right after the 2021 war, and some say even before that. So maybe the timing was connected to that, but the preparation was taking place long time ago for a wider goal. Internally, they say basically that was a plan to liberate Palestine, to force Israel to withdraw from the 67 occupied land. And Iran was on board, Hezbollah was on board, and that's no secret. And that was long time before the normalization issue emerged.
Right. So also, continuing this issue of the 10/7. So it seems that, according to polls that we received from, Dr. Khalil Shkaki and so on, there is an issue with realization on the Palestinian side, what really happened on 10/7. There are a lot of myths, a lot of fake news, a lot of disinformation about that. And I vividly remember the poll that he presented to me in that group of Israelis that visited Ramallah a few weeks ago, that, you know, people who were displayed, you know, were basically shown the, you know, the atrocities of 10/7, they tend to object it or, you know, be against it. But why people do not know about 10/7, do you think, on the Palestinian side, on the Arab side? Does the Arab media not show, you know, this, you know, information?
Yes, Palestinian people have not seen October 7 as the Israelis have seen it. The images that Hamas circulated on social media through their media outlets showed Palestinian fighters attacking Israeli fighters, capturing soldiers, burning tanks, breaching the walls and the borders. They show heroic action. Palestinian people have seen the opposite in the course of the occupation. They have seen all Israeli soldiers capturing Palestinians, arresting them, torturing them, burning their land, their properties. This time, the other way around. The Palestinians who are taking that role.
Basically, Hamas controls the narrative?
Yes, of course. Now, two parts are controlling the narrative. The Israeli army is not the Israeli government is not allowing any independent coverage of the war in Gaza. No single journalist, no single media outlet, foreign media outlet was allowed into Gaza during the war. And the Israeli military goes into Gaza and brings images and distribute it to the media. The same with Hamas when they entered the borders and invaded the southern envelope of Israel. They circulated their own images. So people have not seen the attack on Nova and civilians. These images were not seen in the Palestinian media. That's, of course, that was a major reason of the polls that show that people supported October 7 because they viewed it as a liberation act, a national act, patriot act, because it was against the Israeli military, against the Israeli tanks, not against the Israeli civilians.
So what about Al Jazeera, which is still, I believe, one of the most popular, even maybe the most popular channel? You know, do they show some of that?
Al Jazeera is Al Jazeera. This is Al Jazeera main line. Always, Al Jazeera is a populist news channel. They focus on things that brings more viewers. They focus on the rating. So I don't see them liking Hamas or liking the Muslim Brotherhood, but they like themselves. They like what market them, what attract viewers to watch them. So they focus on that, and that I think cause damage to the public opinion in Palestine concerning this war. The role of the media, independent media, is to create vital public opinion by providing the most accurate information. Al Jazeera has been focusing only on what viewers like to see and hear. So what we see in Al Jazeera, that Israel is in trouble, deep trouble, internal conflict. Israel is collapsing from within because of the conflict within the government, from within the society, and the analysts in Al Jazeera, hosted by Al Jazeera, are saying that they're focusing on the troubles in Israel, and they focus on the heroic acts of Hamas by having videos of them attacking this tank or that tank. So people view Hamas as winner. They don't. They put the suffering of the people in that context, and the context of Israel is committing crimes, but at the same time, Hamas is doing extremely well in fighting the Israelis. Every day they run videos show Hamas attacking Israeli tanks, and they bring analysts who say Israel is hiding their casualties. Every single tank was attacked would have at least 11 crew.
So, when, in the first days, after the massacres, the videos that were shot by Hamas themselves were distributed everywhere. The dead body of Shani Luke, for example, that became a symbol, of that atrocities. Women that are being just fetched with babies, the Bibas babies and so on. Did like channels like Al Jazeera did not show any of that? I mean, because it was everywhere.
I can't remember if they show that these images, but the Palestinian audience have seen for the first time the Palestinians take the initiative and attack Israelis. They see the Israelis as victims and Palestinian fighters as heroes. They did not focus on the details. They focused on the bigger pictures, that the Palestinians are capable of fighting the occupation, taking revenge, liberating their land. That's why
no land was liberated. No,
that's why they've seen these images, people celebrating in the street. So again, it was a moment of tense, and it carried lots of messages. And you cannot blame the Palestinians who have been suffering decades of Israeli brutal occupation of celebrating these images without looking into how much violation of human rights, because Israel never stopped violating human rights in Palestinian territories. That's why I urge you not to stop on the Palestinian sentiments, because
no, I didn't ask about Palestinian sentiment. I wanted to understand how Al Jazeera manipulates, the public opinion, because Muhammad, it's sentiment is a sentiment, but as a news channel, if you do not show what happened on 10/7, so then and then you show everything that happened during the war in Gaza, which was the consequences. So
look,
there was no war in Gaza.
I personally stopped watching Al Jazeera because I cannot stand that. I cannot stand seeing during these atrocities. I cannot see analysts coming and telling me that Israel is collapsing from within, they have deep troubles, conflict over the war, etc., etc., and to show me that Hamas is carrying out powerful attacks inside Gaza against these Israeli tanks, while the fact that Gaza has been destroyed, flattened, and people are starving to death, and children are being killed and starved every morning. So this is not how media, professional media, objective media operate. Professional media presents an objective story, objective analysts, not like someone from this country or that, from Iraq or Jordan, experts in so-called expert in the military, and tells me that the Qassam Brigade are inflicting huge, tremendous casualties in the Israeli military by using these RPGs, and these RPGs are penetrating the tanks, killing the whole crews. I cannot buy that. Some people, simple people, they buy that, and they attach all the time to Al Jazeera to provide more of the same avian. It's like a weed. And that make people rely on this TV that Al-Muqawama is winning. So no, this approach of Al Jazeera, I personally disagree with their approach.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they are also by now still the most widespread channel in their world, and their media in the social networks are extremely popular. So this is the dominating narrative, basically. That's what you're saying.
That's right. The same in Israel. The military circulate their images taken by the soldiers. They embed Israeli journalists who go to Gaza and interview people who are people in miserable situation, and they ask them how to blame Hamas. So yeah, the same. The truth is the victim in this war by the media.
The media, of course, plays, an important role in shaping the public opinion. But again, there is also political leadership, okay? And this is the question that I was meaning to ask you, for a long time. Do you see political leadership right now on the Palestinian side, on the Israeli side? I'm not talking about the people who are in power right now, but do you see others in the Arab world, in Israel and Palestine, that are able to overcome what happened before in order to shape a better future? Because the word leader, it comes from the verb to lead. If you are not leading, then you are just parroting the public opinion. And it's very easy, to just, take the polls and say, well, this is what people want. This is what, we need to do. If most of the people think that we need to attack Israel, then we will attack Israel. If most of the people think that Palestine should not exist, then what should we do? Do you see any glimpse of hope in the leadership of tomorrow?
Yes. Palestinian people, by the way, are betting on the Saudi Arabia leaders simply because they have vision for their own country and the region. And as far as I know from some Palestinian officials, that the only card now that helps the Palestinian in the region is the Saudi Arabia. So Palestinian envoys were sent to Saudi Arabia telling them that we are counting on you to help us in the regional arrangements. Saudi Arabia has this influence regional and internationally. So, and they have a vision for their own country, and that affects the region. People are in Egypt, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Palestine, and are talking proudly of the changes in Saudi Arabia and betting on them, the Syrians, if you listen to them, the Lebanese, the Palestinians. So the Palestinians still suffering from not doing enough reforms, and we have obstacles before that because we have the war in Gaza, the split. It's not easy, but people are requiring the Palestinian Authority to introduce significant change in order to cope with the requirements of the region, in order to have the people of the region helping them. So without introducing significant reforms, political, financial reforms, so the Saudis will not be able to help us that much. So it is the job of the Palestinian first and foremost. But the region is having some hope with the changes in the Saudi Arabia, plus the interest of the Americans in having this partnership with the Saudis. So maybe this element can make some changes.
What about other changes that are happening in the region? So the Hezbollah being critically weakened, the Syrian regime no longer there. Do you think that indeed, it's of course after Shimon Peres and his new Middle East, we mostly laugh bitter when we hear the expression "the new Middle East." But with your vast experience in the region, is there really a chance to realignment, to reshaping this region, to making it a better place in the end of the day for everyone?
I think yes. Before the war, people were counting on the so-called axis of resistance. Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. And it turned out that they were betting on the loser horse. So now people are shifting. They are looking for another balanced power, another elements, another changes in the region. So, and now we have the Saudis, we have the bilateral relationship between the Americans and the Saudis, and reshaping the region. So maybe we can find a place for ourselves in the new era of the Middle East, although the signs that come from Israel are not encouraging. The Israelis are still building more and more settlements, undermining more and more the two-state solution, driving the country into an apartheid system. So, and the Israelis, by the way, and the Palestinians need to do their homework. We are looking at the Israeli election in 2026. Maybe that would bring some changes. I don't know. And the Palestinians started some slight reforms. Hopefully they can continue. And we are hearing from them that if the war is over in Gaza and new arrangements are taking place, then we might have a new approach, internal approach. We might go for election if Hamas changes and becoming a political player.
Well, do you really believe that this might happen? I mean, for many years they refused to do exactly that. I mean, they could do it in 2006 when they won the election. They could become a political player back then and save all of these wars.
Look, the result of the war, I think the result of the war showed that Gaza cannot be a military entity anymore. No way. No way for Hamas to rebuild a military entity in Gaza. No way. I know from themselves, they have realized that cannot be done. The people who want this happen. Israel and the players, Egypt, the mediators, the Americans, won't let that happen. So I think we hope that this war comes to an end, and then new arrangements, long-term security arrangements take place that requires Hamas not to turn Gaza again into a military entity. They cannot do that. They will not be allowed to do that. And if they do, then they would destabilize Gaza again and make it a daily confrontation that would hinder and block any attempt to rebuild Gaza. Then I don't see them doing that. I think this war, one of the results that there will be security arrangement long term in Gaza, long-term security arrangement that requires Hamas to stop training, stop military training, stop military manufacturing, stop military smuggling, stop digging tunnels, all of that. The war will not end before, I'm sure the war cannot be end without having these security arrangements. And as far as I know, Hamas is willing to go for that road, down that road, simply because this is the only way out. Otherwise, they would keep Gaza under constant attacks, and there will be no reconstruction.
Well, it seems that they are ready to do that. They are doing it for 1 year and 7 months, refusing basically to disarm. And, the whole question of disarmament, I think that it's still problematic. I mean, that's what we heard last from the brokers, in these negotiations. In any case, I wanted to ask you, it's a broader question. So the Hamas is part of the political Islam, Muslim Brotherhood, and all of this axis. Do you see a future in the Middle East with this axis of, strong, political Islamic organizations that proved to be destructive until now, both in Egypt and in Gaza and in other places?
Look, Hamas is a Muslim Brotherhood movement. Muslim Brotherhood are moderate movement. But Hamas was not simply moderate, simply because the occupation was not moderate. I think the harsh occupation created this harsh Hamas as a result of the occupation practices. The Israeli practices were not soft in order to create a Palestinian resistance movement, a soft resistant movement. So the Israeli occupation was definitely, by all definition, harsh, and created this harsh opposition. But I think Hamas has realized that Gaza cannot be a military entity. In their internal talks with the Americans, with the French, with the foreign parties, with the Qataris, with the Egyptians, Hamas showed their willingness to go for a long-term, even permanent ceasefire, even if that requires taking all of their offensive guns, offensive weapons, putting them under a control of third party like Egypt and Qatar, and gradually, maybe they would keep. And it's understandable, even from the Western point of view, that Hamas cannot accept Netanyahu's condition for disarmament. No, that requires raising the white flag, surrendering, and letting the Israelis reoccupying Gaza and arresting everyone and deporting whoever they want. No, but security arrangements means all of the heavy guns, heavy weapons can be put under Egyptian or mediators' control. They keep their individual guns in order to protect themselves. Otherwise, the Israelis the day after would enter Gaza and arrest them all. And this is one. The second, Hamas being strong enough to impose security and order in the first phase is one of the requirements for stability. Because if you ask Hamas now to hand over all of their guns, then Gaza will drown into chaos. There's no government. There's no police force to impose security and order in Gaza. I think any arrangements, and I heard that from mediators themselves, and they tell the Israelis, your conditions for ending the war is not reasonable. And it is counterproductive, by the way, because if you force Hamas, even if the Israelis enter Gaza for another 1 year operation, kills lots of fighters and thousands of people, and that would lead to the more isolation for Israel. And even if Israel managed to reoccupy Gaza, that would fragment Hamas into groups with no one controls it, and then there will be like a war of attrition for another years. So it is we will drown in the Iraqi scenario. So Hamas can be destroyed but not defeated. Hamas can be contained, and it is willing to be contained and transformed into a political entity by themselves, because not because voluntarily they want to do that. No, because they realized that Gaza cannot be a military entity. They realized the lesson. And don't forget that part of Hamas took the decision of October 7, not the entire leadership. There were disagreements between themselves, and the military wing, who was controlling the movement, decided this way with consultation with Iran and Hezbollah. They viewed it as a liberation strategy, but it failed. Internally, they say it failed, so they need to shift. It is an imperative shift.
Well, let's hope that the shift will happen now, both on the Hamas side, on the Israeli side. And there is so much potential in the Middle East. It's just a pity to see that it's not being realized, while all of the horrific wars are taking lives of people and destabilizing further the region.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.
You are welcome. You are welcome.
You've been listening to the ROPESCAST, the independent voice of the Middle East. Our guest today was Mohammed Daraghmeh, Al-Sharq News Bureau Chief in Palestine, former AP correspondent, and an expert on media and the Middle East. We hope you enjoyed the ROPESCAST. Our podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all quality podcast platforms. We are very grateful to all our listeners in the Middle East, Europe, the US, and other parts of the world. To learn more about ROPES, please visit our website, ropes.org. Thank you so much, and I will see you in our next episode. Shalom and salam.